Okay, guys, it's me, Brian, and lately I hadn't felt like reading anything, or I wasn't even in the right mindset to be reading anything. It wasn't depression or anything like that. It was more like a lack of, let's see how I want to word this, passion on just with everything going on, with the news and just holidays, stuff like that. You get busy, you get some downtime. Uh, you really don't feel like spending it reading a comic, or at least I don't anyway. Um, and I ended up getting a direct message on Twitter from a buddy of mine in the community, and it ended up spurring me on somewhat to make a short little comic book related video, or at least try to make it as short as I can anyway. And to help me do that, I kind of made like a Word document to help me keep my thoughts in order. So anyway, let's get this started. As you can tell by the title, um, I'm going to be reviewing Ringside. Right here, I always have the source material. Um, by Joe Keating, or Joe Kintage, or I don't know how you say that. Nick Barber, Simon Go, and Arena Mayer. Uh, Joe Keatage wrote it. Nick Barber done art. Simon Go done the color, and Ariana Mayer done the lettering. Um, anyway, if I look up, I'm reading my text document. Ringside follows retired ex-wrestler Dan Nossis. I think that's how you say his name. Knossos, Nossis, as he tries to make a life for himself outside of his in-ring alter ego, the Minotaur, uh, to which he doesn't own the rights to. Along the way, we meet Amy and find out Dan was a Marine, and that presumably, up to this point anyway, his Marine buddy Teddy is in some kind of trouble. We also meet an old wrestling buddy of Dan's who was still wrestling. He brings a kid new to the business with him named Reynolds to a meeting with Dan. Dan then goes to a local bar to meet Teddy, and things get crazy from there. That's all I'm going to tell you about this book, because this book is just, I've heard this expression used in different scenarios, but it really fits in this situation. This book really is an onion with so many layers that you could peel back and reveal. They could take this book anywhere they want to, in any direction. This book is fantastic. If you're a fan of wrestling, you'll love this book. If you're not a fan of wrestling, you don't need to be to enjoy this book. Um, I'm very intrigued by this story. I want to see where it goes from here. Um, I am, or at least was, a fan of wrestling um, up until Stone Cold and Rock left the business the first time, and then that's when I stopped caring about it. Um, and back when the Scorpion King, the first one, come out, is when I really stopped watching it. I've kept up with it, with like um, TNA and ECW, but it's like, well, ECW is gone now, but you know, um, it was still going back then, to my knowledge that I can remember anyway. Um, But anyway, that's where my wrestling knowledge, that's where the foundation of it is in that uh, Attitude Era, shortly thereafter um, time frame. And what really sold me on this book was not the writing, it wasn't the art, it was the Q&A in the back of the book, and how Joe Keating and what did I say his name was? Nick Barber, the way they talked about their love of wrestling and how it was from that same time frame. And Joe Keating talked about how one of his favorite wrestlers was Mick Foley, and that holds true with me too. Um, I actually got to meet Mick Foley when he done a book signing for his book. I want to say it was his first book, Have a Nice Day, I think was the name of it. I could be wrong about that, but it was about his life. And the way he interacted with the crowd or the line of people that were there, um, it was just fantastic. Um, he has knee problems. If you um, don't know who I'm talking about, look him up. You'll see that he kind of walks like me, but he doesn't have any kind of disability. It's just that his body is just that battered and bruised over the years. Um, anyway, because of that, he was sitting down um, a lot for the pictures. And a funny story is that uh, we didn't bring a camera with us that day because we didn't know that he was going to be taking pictures. And we actually got this family that was behind us in line to take a picture, and actually sent it to us in the mail, which we were completely trusting these people. We had no idea who they were, and they actually come through, and that was a really cool thing that they had done for us, and I appreciate it. Uh, my book that I got autographed is somewhere put up back there. I don't pull it out too often, but he would take and lean in closer and kind of like hug up to the person he was taking a picture with. And he really didn't have to do stuff like that, but he did. He went the extra mile for people, and that was what made Mick Foley cool. Was he wasn't this unapproachable person. He was really down to earth. Um, Made you love him more if you wasn't a fan, you know. But to just see the pictures and all in that book that he wrote, and how much damage his body just took over the years, whether it be from the chair shots from The Rock and the I Quit match, or his years in Japan and the brutal stuff that they do over there, and to the point of where his ear was cut off, and actually finding it in the dumpster behind the hospital, as I believe is where he found it, just tossed in the garbage. Wasn't even in a container or anything from what I remember. And it's just neat to hear their love of the sport. Um, it was worth the pickup just to find that out, that they're not coming from this from just to, oh, I had an idea kind of standpoint. There is a true love of sports entertainment, or wrestling in general, and it's just mind blowing that not only do you get the in-ring action in this book, you get the outside action, and kind of like what it's like for them to be on the road. And another neat story is, I know I'm getting sidetracked here, but I was actually, some of y'all may know this already, because anytime somebody brings up wrestling, I like to talk about it. But I actually got to go to the last WCW Monday Night Nitro in Panama City, and I got to see Sting versus Flair, and Sting was my all-time favorite wrestler, hands down. Just, I remember seeing Sting the first time he appeared in the crow face paint, and having the vulture on his shoulder instead of the crow. I mean, that the visual of that alone made him my favorite character or wrestler, um, from not only WCW but the whole wrestling universe. Um, but to possibly, see that as a young teenager back in 2001, to see somebody who you grew up watching uh, basically in their career right in front of you, it was pretty cool. But the art in this book, before I go off too far, it's not that great, and that's not a stab at Nick Barber or anything, but it's just the way it is. And they actually talk about in the Q&A in the back about that's how they wanted it. They wanted it like loose and rough and excuse me. But I got some interior art to show you, and this probably isn't the best page to use, but it was one of the best close-ups I can find um, of it, to show you the kind of the greater detail that you'll get um, in this book up to this point anyway, in issue 1. So let's take the cover off and come on, there you go. Let's see how the girl Amy, that's his Marine buddy, um, sitting there drinking a beer around the campfire. But you can see the detail in their faces. Um, the the nose and just the detail. You can really see how loose it is. And I wasn't loving it at first, but the more I read it, the more I grew used to it. And once you find out that that's actually how they wanted it, it actually starts to make some sense as to why they done it. I'm sure not just because it's a very rough and loose story, and they wanted the art to match it. If I have to compare it to anything, it's kind of like the Mickey Rourke movie, The Wrestler, that they made, and the Southern Bastards comic. If you can take those two things and combine them together, you'll have Ringside. And I know Southern Bastards was a big book, and a lot of people liked it. But I can really see them taking it into that direction. And if that's the way it goes, then it should be a wild ride. Um, I'm sorry I babbled, but I hope y'all enjoyed this book. Um, I also picked up, oops, I just dropped it. Anyway, I also picked up Coming of Rage. So if y'all want to see a review of that, let me know in the comments, and I will talk at y'all later. Love y'all. God bless.